Hi readers, welcome back to my channel and welcome to My Weekend Books. Lee here, Lila Wanders and Reads is the channel name, and October continues to be the month of May. There are probably three reasons for that. One, and this is a thing that I noticed from looking at some short videos that I did last year on Instagram, I think that there may be something seasonally about why I'm distracted or why I can't settle with a book in October. Because last October I had similar problems, although I did read more and I did finish more. I have DNF'd a lot in October. I didn't keep track of everything. I should have. I will next time, maybe. But yeah, it's just been really kind of frustrating. Second thing is, do world events like pop up in October normally? Last October it was Hamas attacking Israel. This October we have more world events going on. We also have a US election. So maybe that's part of it, because I certainly can't settle and I'm filled with anxiety and just a shit ton going on. The third reason I know is a big part of it this year. And that's something I want to keep private right now. Don't want to talk about it. It's not a bad thing. I just don't want to really kind of jinx what's going on. But it does, for right now, keep me from settling down and with the book. Because I associate settling down with the book with some other things that, you know, may not be great. Okay, let's get right to it. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to talk about my weekend books. Not a lot of books, again, to talk about. I used to run like 4 to 5. Now I'm like 2. And there's just 2 here that I finished, that I started and finished. There's one here that I finished that I've been working on all month long. And then I'm going to talk about my November plans and my plans through the end of the year. And I've already broken one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about. So let's start with the reads. I started out the week with something light. I made a vow, which I immediately broke right after this book, to stick with light reads, rom-coms, stuff that I don't have to really get mentally invested in. So I started out with Worston Show by Anna Collins, and I gave that 3 stars. It is a cute but forgettable rom-com, and that's okay. That is what I needed right now. If I had read this during another time of the year, it would have probably been just meh to me. I did have a spelling issue here that I won't go into right now, but they spelled a phrase wrong, or at least the first word of the phrase. The first word is French, but some editor should have caught that. It's unacceptable. Anywho, this is cute. I'll read what it's about. Aspiring fashion designer Cora Lewis should have known better. Entering her grandpa's extremely adorable and totally unruly pups in a dog show? What was she thinking? Oh, right. Her grandpa is injured, his beloved pet shop is losing the fight against the upscale dog boutique across the street, and his business and home are on the line. She needs that prize money to save the day, and if the only way to win is to train with her strongest adversary, then she'll suck it up and ask for help. Rival store owner Leo Salinger is everything Cora is not: successful, wealthy, and overly ambitious. She would never guess that he's also the kind and witty pen pal she's met on a local message board. But somewhere between teaching pups to heel, fetch, and stay, Cora and Leo are finding a little competition can ignite a serious attraction. Can they stop this sexy spark before all her dreams go to the dogs? Cute. I love the dogs. If the dogs weren't in this, it would have been even more forgettable. But anyway, it did what I needed it to do. It got me a book under my belt and kept me reading, even when there are so many distractions going on. So, if you need a palate cleanser or a cute, forgettable rom-com, go for this one. You can't go wrong. Next up is the nonfiction book. I always want to call nonfiction fiction in these videos. I have no idea why. Next up is the nonfiction book that I started and finished in the month of October. And this, for me, I gave no rating on Goodreads. Here's why. And this is my caveat. I really like part of the intent of the book. I am, as you know, anti-book banning. Kirkus calls this a straightforward narrative. I did not find it so. And I'm talking about That Librarian by Amanda Jones. I wanted to like this. The premise is great. However, it is not a straightforward narrative, in my opinion. I did not give this a rating because I did not want people to look at it and say that I either agreed with the book banners or disagreed with the book banners. I disagree with the book banners, for sure. But I didn't feel I could give it a rating, and I didn't want to do a written review, so I wanted to do this review. I didn't want to give it a rating on Goodreads and have people think, oh, well, she just doesn't like, Amanda Jones or yada yada. That's not the case. There are some very good elements in this book that I wish Amanda had focused more on. Early on, she talks about collection development, extremely useful. It talks about finding professional reviews, which I used one to critique this book. It talks about classes in grad school that teach you how to create and follow collection development policies. I loved that. This is, if you want to argue with people about book banning, this information gives you the things that you need to educate people on how books are chosen for libraries. Okay? I'm going to go on to the things that I liked. She talks about book challenges and uses statistics. Loved that. At the very end, let me be frank, I started getting annoyed with her, and it's not with the book banning stuff, it's with her. But at the very end, she talks about some ways to counter extremism, and I don't even have those pages marked. That's how annoyed I was at this point. At one point, she makes some thing about doing something that would only be her being petty, and I'm like, oh, you're being petty, girl. So let's get to the things that I did not like. That Librarian reminds me of every reason I am so glad I no longer live in a small town or a town with a small town mindset or work in a small office. Amanda comes across to me as whiny. There's a lot of petty gossip in here, a lot of pettiness, even on Amanda's part. I am not saying that the people she sued for defamation are the good guys in this. They are not. They're assholes, and I think that she got attention by suing them for defamation, but I don't necessarily think that was the right route to go. She was probably not ever going to win in small town Louisiana with small town judges. And she didn't really have that much of a case. It's Facebook shit. People talking shit on Facebook. If we sued everyone for that, we'd all be in, involved in lawsuits. But there's a lot of stuff that my mom used to call yeah, which is yeah. Small town people just bitching and gossiping and stuff like that. I am not above petty gossip. I have engaged myself. However, I recognize it. I try to stop it. So I guess the biggest part in here is she's using a large part of this book to air her petty grievances. And some of those grievances are, I'm not talking about the bad guys on the Facebook. I'm talking about she would go up to a colleague at work and she would show people a text that somebody had sent or a Facebook message that somebody had posted. And when they didn't give the response that she wanted, she would be upset about that. Not necessarily to them, but she would start talking shit about them in her mind and in the book. And there was so much of that. So much of that in here. And look, on my YouTube channel, I will be snarky, especially if I'm talking about a book. But when I'm reading a nonfiction book, I don't want snark. And she uses it all the time. He was running for office, so of course he picked up the basic culture war nonsense and ran with it like a good white Christian nationalist. And there's comments like that. There's another one down here. I hate that I find myself talking on what I'm about to be, talking on the side of someone I extremely do not like. But here's another example of Stark. We can't have anyone actively trying to make the world a better place or living their best life, can we now? There's a time and a place for snark. It's not in this book about banning books. I feel like you would have been better served showing facts and statistics and leaving your personal feelings out of it. Hard to do, I know, and she makes that comment in here. But this is something, when I was in college, as an English major, I had to write a lot, and I got called out on this once or twice. It only took once or twice, because I thought my teacher wanted to hear something, so I made a pronouncement about Shakespeare. And she, on my paper, she was like, is he? Or would he? I don't remember what I said. But here's where I defend someone, not really defending them, but defending a statement about them. She says, she's talking about Kirk Cameron. Kirk is obviously a white Christian nationalist. How is it obvious? Amanda, you have not given us any examples. He doesn't like certain books, that's fine. And he wants them out of schools, fine, whatever. But you should have been way more specific. It was not obvious. By the time I got to that statement, it was not obvious. She has maybe said one thing about him and then gone on about white Christian nationalism, but nothing specific about Kirk Cameron. Again, I'm not a fan of Kirk Cameron whatsoever. I have strong feelings about him. However, if you're going to make a statement like this, back it up with facts in the book. Don't just, otherwise it's just your opinion. It may be an opinion I lean toward agreeing with, but it does not help me. It does not help sell your case if you don't back it up with facts. It's just her writing style. She's not a writer. She's probably a great librarian, probably a very good teacher. The writing style on this just did not work for me. I feel like it could have been a much better book. I think it is worth checking out from the library and skimming through because there are some good parts. There is another part in here that talks about what they are doing down in Escambia County, Florida, to ban books further. So there are some 3 sections that are really, really interesting and informative, but the rest is her bitching about people that she lives with and in the same town with her, and she spends a lot of time not bitching about the people who were defaming her, but bitching about people she felt should have supported her. And that's really where she just got on my fucking nerves, and I just could not even with that. So, it's a shame. It's really a shame, but I should have known better. She's not an author. She's not a historian. I hope that she wins the fight against book banning in Louisiana in her parish. But I'm just not going to read anything else that she writes. So I will definitely support any efforts against book banning that she is behind, and that's where it ends. Alrighty. Okay, final book. So I said I was going to go light, and then in my shorts, you'll see if you haven't already, I lied. I actually got to start. Okay, so this book that I'm listening to by Hillary Rodham Clinton led me to this book by Louise Penny called Still Life. It's complicated. It also led me to another book, which I did not bring here. And I love when a book leads me to another book. However, I have really mixed feelings about Still Life. So, I mean, obviously, it's obvious in the title. It's obvious in the first chapter what is going to lead you to the clue about the murder. Here's my problem. I got lost a lot of times reading this because sometimes I wasn't sure whose head we were in. And we were in a lot of people's heads, which is a problem that I have. I don't like to be in my own head that much. I don't want to be in y'all's heads. And she jumps from head to head to head and just thinking and thinking and thinking instead of doing or showing. And that got a little much to me. I'm not quite ready to give up on this yet, though. I finished this book on my Kindle. On Kindle Unlimited, they have book 2 in this series. I read a couple chapters yesterday morning. Totally forgot that I was going to try to read on my Kindle on the weekends this morning, so I didn't read any yet this morning. I'll try to remember tomorrow. But what I noticed in the second book is she does a better job of describing the town of Three Pines than she did in this book, the start of the story. And that's why I'm not ready to give up the characters. Not necessarily Inspector Gamache, but the townspeople, I really like them. Except for one guy, Peter. Peter's a dick. Anywho, I forgot. I've got to read what this is about. God, I've got... What in the world? I've got something on my glasses. I don't know what it is. Oh. I'm falling apart here, guys. Okay. Get your shit together. Chief Inspector Armand Gamache and his team of investigators are called to the scene of a suspicious death in a rural village south of Montreal, and yet a world away. Jane Neal, a local fixture in the tiny hamlet of Three Pines, has been found dead in the woods on Thanksgiving morning. The locals are certain it's a tragic hunting accident and nothing more, but Gamache smells something foul in this holiday season. Anywho, so I don't really like Gamache. There's the whole thing between Gamache and his partner, and then this third detective that they have on. And I don't have, at the very beginning, Gamache and the other guy are against the new detective, and I don't get why until like later, towards the halfway mark in the book. Then all of a sudden she starts being the problem. You can see that, but at the very beginning, it was like they were just piling on her because they didn't want an outsider in. Now, that said, she's got a great sense of humor, and I laughed out loud several times in this. So that's why I'm not quite ready to give up on it. We'll see how the Kindle Unlimited goes with book 2. It's not going to be a fast read. I'm not even counting it as a book I'm reading because I am not the best Kindle reader. I'll try to get better, but I've said that before. Who are we kidding? Okay, so that concludes the books that I finished this week. I have not picked up anything for November on the fiction side. I am going to talk about that in a little bit, but on the audio side, I am listening to Something Lost, Something Gained by Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I do not remember why I picked this book up. I will say this. I will talk about this book more probably next week in my weekend books because I intend to have finished it. I intend to finish this before the election. When I picked it up on audio, I thought I could finish it by the end of the month, but I had like 3 days to do 13 hours, and who are we kidding? Kidding. So I'm listening to this. I listen to it every time I drive. Today is Sunday when I'm recording this. I've got chores to do, so once my phone gets charged up, I will put it on and listen to another hour while I do chores. But like I said, I don't remember why I picked this up. Something led me to this book. And there's a large part in this that is very political, which is to be expected. And so she actually gives this whole almost like dystopian idea of what would happen if Trump wins the presidency again. And so that's kind of funny. But then there are other parts where she's talking about policy, and I'm struck by how establishment she is. But there were two parts. Oh, sorry. Before I say that, Hillary Clinton gives 0 fucks, and I am here for it. Anywho, there are two parts in here that really I found unexpected, and I'm tearing up just thinking about them. The first was a chapter called White Scarves, and at the end of that, I was finishing it as I was driving into the parking lot of Publix, and I teared up. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to sit here until I stop crying. And that was, White Scarves is about her and her team's efforts to get women and their families out of Afghanistan at the end of the war when the U.S. departed. And what struck me is how difficult it was for Hillary Rodham Clinton, and with all her connections, to get people out, and how this would fail and that would fail, and some things succeeded. But if someone with Hillary Clinton's connections had trouble, then what do you expect with the rest of us, getting people out? Anywho. There was another chapter that I just finished, and I actually stopped it, and actually I stopped it, and then I restarted it, and now I'm further on than I think I am. This is where I think I am, so I'm probably like around here. But the chapter, This Old House, is about her mother. And her mother, stayed in Arkansas for most of her life, and then finally got convinced to move up to Washington with them. And the chapter is about why Hillary has not given up her house in Washington, because most of the time they stay in Chappaqua. Oh God, I'm not a crier on the internet, but this is really moving, so go with it. So Hillary's about to get on a plane and go somewhere, and she's asked her mom, hey, do you want me to stop by after, my speech before I get on the plane? Her mom's like, no. Well, her mom was walking up the stairs, and she fell and hit her head, and she never recovered from that. Anywho, sorry. So at the end of this chapter, she's talking about why she still has the house, and she says, I am not ready to give up my mother, or this old house she called home. I don't think I ever will. And her books, they're right where she left them. Sorry. Anywho, that I found so moving and so relatable. And now I understand why she doesn't sell that house in Washington. Anywho, sorry, don't normally cry on camera, but what the fuck. Whoops. I'm a real person. And it reminds me of my own loss of my mother, and how hard it is to let go. And it humanizes this politician that I've grown up knowing. Anywho. Get my shit together here. Alright, so I intend to finish this before the election is over. I'm going to count this in my November books because I did not finish it in October, and I still have a good 3-4 chapters to go. Before I get... Oh, fuck it. I'm just going to wing this part. So, November plans. October has been a meh month. One of the things that I noticed, on audio even, so a couple months ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to use audio, and I'm going to try short stories. So I listened to the History of Sound stories, which, by the way, is one of my top books of the year. I loved The History of Sound by Ben Shattuck. And I'm like, man, this is the way I need to listen to short stories. So, next up, let me take these off. I finished listening to Stephen King's You Like It Darker. Great. It was great. Then I went straight from that into Out There Screaming. And I got about this far in, and I had to get out. Now, two parts. One part is there's a lot going on in the world, and so I would have to stop and listen to the news, and it would put me out of the book. But if I really was into the book, it wouldn't have put me out. Nothing stopped me, very little stopped me on The History of Sound. So what I've realized is the same thing as if I was reading like a series. I don't do well reading back to back to back to back. I feel like I could read the second one of this on Kindle because I don't really, it's not an everyday thing. It's not a read it until it's done. It's read a little bit, read a little bit, read a little bit. But when I have tried to read series back to back to back, at some point, usually around book 3, I get burnt out. That would be the third short story collection that I tried to listen to. So, and it may be why I stopped listening to the World War II books, because it just got too much. I did too much of it. So, from now to the end of the year, I'm going to switch it up. Once I finish the Hillary Rodham Clinton book, I'm going to podcast for a few days. Or whatever. Or music. I'll do something, and then I will choose a nonfiction book. And what I'm going to try to do is different subjects. So it's not the same thing. Not all short stories. Not all World War II. Not all this. Not all that. Switch it up. I've got a ton of nonfiction books and reading that I need to do. So we'll see. I do not know why I'm picking up the wrong note card. The same thing in nonfiction. Although that Librarian was a mix-up for me. I don't remember what I read before that, but it was definitely something not in my usual genre for nonfiction. But I am going to try to mix that up as well. Again, I've got a ton of nonfiction to read, either listen to or read, and I might as well start working on some of my upstairs books too. Now, the one thing that I've already broken, I've been going back and forth on what to do for Book Talk Tuesday. And Book Talk Tuesday this year is also my birthday. And I've been, like I said, been vacillating between different things. Now I know what I'm going to do. And I went to Listopia on Goodreads to get an idea of some of the books that I want to cover. And I might have already bought 3. I don't need to because I already have so many, but these were just irresistible. I'll do a book haul on them one day. But anywho, so tomorrow's Book Talk Tuesday is kind of like a birthday for me because I'm talking about something that has become an unintended theme in my reading this year, and it's going to be an intended theme going into 2025. Hopefully, we'll see. But my goal was not to buy any more books the rest of this year except for new releases with a few exceptions. And not 2 hours after I wrote this card, I've already made a few exceptions. Oh, speaking of books, the mailman is here, and I think he's here with my book of the month. Anywho, that is all. Tomorrow, Book Talk Tuesday, my birthday edition, Election Day edition, and a special theme edition. Wednesday, I am doing my October reading recap, and that is it. Sorry for crying on you guys. That part was really moving, and you know what? I'm a human being. Anywho, that is it for me. I hope you have a great reading week. Hope you've had a great October, and I hope November is relaxing and a better reading month. Happy reading!